I'm in Corning, New York today to present the Juran Medal for Distinguished Performance in Quality Leadership to Mr. James R. Houghton, Chairman of Corning Incorporated. Named after Dr. Joseph Juran, the medal criteria include a chief executive of a company that has received international recognition, has served continuously as a chief executive for a period of at least 5 years in establishing a quality strategy, and demonstrated that it works, showing sustained excellence for business performance. Included in that is serving society as a public promoter of quality and really has a personal and passionate commitment as a leader and for quality. So on behalf of Dr. Juran, the American Society of Quality, the Juran Committee, and really all the beneficiaries of people that have received your good teachings and leadings for the many decades, it's certainly my honor and privilege, Jamie, to present to you the Dr. Juran Medal for Quality Leadership.
Mike, thanks very much. It is not only a great honor, but I'm extremely flattered to have received this medal, especially given the name on it, Dr. Joseph Juran, who's an old hero of mine.
Speaking of your hero, Dr. Juran, I know recently he called you to recognize you for the award. What was that like, and did it recreate memories from your first stint in 1983 when you started your quality strategy?
Well, the call was extraordinary because, I remember him from way back, and he's now 101 years old. But he was just sharp as a tack, and in fact told me he remembered his visit to Corning in the late 80s, where I remember him getting up and talking to our people and refusing to sit down in a chair, and he must have done this for 2 or 3 hours straight. So he's an amazing man, and I told him that he was a great hero of mine, and that I was extremely pleased to get this award.
And bring us back to the early 1980s that got you started in your own personal discovery of quality.
It was a rather strange thing because I had taken over as the chairman in April of 1983, and my first time around as the chairman, and I knew that we were in the middle of a very bad recession and we were not doing well as a company, and I knew that we had to do some things differently. I wasn't quite sure what that was, but in the period of the next few months, I was talked to all the time by a man named Forrest Bem, who was on our board of directors, but also was the leader of several of our businesses. He was an absolute devotee of quality. Before I signed on, he made me go visit some places. One of them was IBM and some other places. And eventually, what happened was that by the fall of 1983, I had at least gotten it through my thick skull that this was something that probably was a good idea. And so we embarked on it. And I have to tell you that it's the luckiest thing that ever happened to me that we did this, because I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And I just jumped into the water and said, we're going. And I appointed Forrest Bem the first director of quality. We had quality training put in place in 7 or 8 different languages, et cetera, et cetera. And this was all at a time when the company was barely breaking even. So I was not the most popular kid on the block for doing this. Now, in addition, as I was the major champion along with Forrest Bem, most of the rest of the organization didn't know anything about it. They thought it was sort of stupid because they said, well, this is just like all new chairmen. They have to have something to push forward, and so Jamie's going to do this. But don't worry, stay down in the foxhole and go away. Well, it didn't. It didn't. And the more I got into it and recognized how powerful this could be, the more thankful I was that I'd made the decision to go ahead. And it started from there and built up slowly, and here we are.
Jimmy, how do you just keep it going, sustain quality, and just keep it going, keep the momentum going?
Well, I think the important thing is that the leader has to be visible on this subject. It doesn't do any good if the next layer down is all for it, but the leader's not, because the organization's not stupid. They look at the walk and they look at the talk of the leadership. And so I figured that I was going to just take this on as a personal crusade, which I did. And everywhere I went in the company, I talked about this constantly. Performance, the individual, and quality, quality, quality. Because I realized that if I didn't do that, it would quickly fade away. I think I've said before, I think I probably went about 5 or 6 years of doing this before I was totally confident that if anything had happened to me, it would still go on. It needed that sort of momentum for it to build, not only with the top management, but down in the ranks.
Mm-hmm. So what tactics have you demonstrated that you're actually walking the talk out in the field?
Well, I mean, I think that, people are not stupid, and if they hear things long enough, they're going to start to say, well, he may really mean this, And so I had a program of visiting every factory and every location in our company around the world on a regular basis. I tried to do it all in 1 year, but that proved impossible. So about every 2-year cycle, I would get to every place in the company, and I'd talk about this every place I go. And I would ask the right questions about, let me see what you're doing in quality here, there, and eventually it sunk in. Because eventually what happened, Mike, was that people realized that this wasn't Jamie's program. Mm-hmm. This was survival. Mm-hmm. This was absolutely necessary for our survival. And so once that started to happen, it picked up momentum on its own.
Mm-hmm. You've got 2 stints. What difference have you seen between the 1980s version versus the contemporary one here in 2006?
If I go back to when I came back in 2002, one of the things I noticed was that our total quality effort had sort of stalled. Mm-hmm. It was there. I mean, it wasn't going away, but it didn't have the right sort of zip to it, and it needed another kick. And so I talked to Wendell Weeks, our president, and Pete Volanakis, our vice president, and I said, we've got to do something about this. And so we gave the assignment to Don McCabe and to Leroy Boatwright to, no kidding, get us back on a path where we were proactive. We weren't just reacting. And they put together a program that exists today that is just dynamite, and it's really embedded in the whole company. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful.
Jamie, you referenced that you kind of had the culture in place on your second turnaround here at Corning, but not all organizations even have that base foundation. How'd they go about getting that, kind of your 1980s version of a quality foundation?
Well, the first thing you have to do is to have the leader be an advocate. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't work. I mean, it just absolutely will not work. So the leader has to be the advocate, and then the leader has to push it down, has to absolutely be committed to pushing this down layer by layer. As an aside, it's very interesting what happened to us. I started talking about this, and gradually the people that work for me got the message, and then the people who work for them got the message, and it started on down. But the people that helped us the most were at the bottom of the organization, because the people at the bottom said, oh my God, you mean you're going to listen to me? You mean you're actually going to listen to what I have to say about how we can improve around here? And so that there was a fire built at the bottom of the organization, hourly workers, etc. And fire from the top, fire from the bottom, and then we met middle management. And that was a challenge, because middle management was threatened, because middle management said, I'm supposed to be a boss. Mm-hmm. And we said, no, you're not supposed to be a boss. You're supposed to be a teacher. You're supposed to be a consultant. You're supposed to help people. And so that was a tough thing we had to get over. But eventually we did. Mm-hmm. It took hold, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm. How has technology in today's environment influenced and enhanced, enabled, or gotten your way in terms of your performance?
Well, I mean, at the beginning, if you take the various functions in the company, manufacturing was the easiest, because there's a plant and they know what they have to do, and they're all together. Then you spread out and you get into marketing and things like that. It makes it a little harder. The hardest group to convince initially were our research and development people, because they basically said we're different. They finally got it. I mean, and now I think due to the leadership of Joe Miller and the others, I think our technology group is a real leader in quality effort in this country.
Mm-hmm. Jamie, you've got a global company. How do you maintain a kind of a standard quality culture, but also recognizing the diversity that exists in a global environment?
Well, I don't. I was worried about that, but I don't think that has been a bigger problem as you would have thought. We now have, and this is different than when I was chairman the first time. We have 60% of our sales outside the United States. Mm-hmm. We're very heavily involved in Asia. But as I travel around to these units who are pursuing quality,